Hello and welcome to LanguageCraft for a brand new episode of Let's Timelapse. Let's Timelapse episode 14. Now we're back with our favorite build show, or it's mine at any rate. Good thing too, since I'm its creator. It would be worrisome otherwise. Anyway, we're flying next to the monastery which I built with Mimilala, and since the last episode we did a live stream, which was an idea I'd gotten a while back. So I invited a few members of LanguageCraft, namely Théophile, Nelazia, Dudelush, and Lapse, who came and applied my style with their own twist. Now this house, for example, was made only by me, but as we go to the left we can see the houses that the others built, and especially this one that Dudelush made, and he didn't respect any patterns at all, but he used the same materials, so you can't really tell from the outside, and it looks great, it really fits in. And I love this, it's really refreshing to have other people's take on something. And then we went ahead and drew out the layout for today's zone, the fishing port. So I'm starting with the lighthouse, which is of course one of the most important structures in the fishing port, and in any port to be honest. Now the first part is a small house that's against the lighthouse, because someone needs to be there and tend the fire, even though the lighthouse itself belongs to the town. Now don't forget this takes place in the Middle Ages. You can't just flick a switch and have a light bulb turn on. You need someone to actually feed the fire, take care of it. Now with the house finished, I'm moving over to the base of the tower, which might seem a little bit familiar. You may have seen it before, seen those same materials. I wanted to make sure the town was unified, so this is the same base as the windmill. I thought it was a good throwback because it's the same kind of shape, but it's also the same kind of building. Both belong to the town itself, to the Lord, but are useful to everyone. Of course, it's not an exact copy. This base is slightly wider, and the sides change as we move up. But the principle remains the same, even though the lighthouse will be much taller, much more impressive. Actually, you can see the windmill in the background, which is about 24 blocks high, if my memory serves me right, while the lighthouse stands at about 40 blocks tall. Now the structure gets thinner as we go up. From the wide base, we go to just 5 blocks with corners that jut out, and finally 3 blocks with a pillar in each corner at its thinnest. Now this thin part doesn't last very long, but after taking a step back I decided to raise the top part up a little bit, kind of double that thin part. While I was building I wasn't really paying attention to the proportions, which was a mistake of course. This place is also the only place in the lighthouse with wood, because we obviously can't build the base out of wood, we need something stronger, and it would burn if it was placed at the top. Now we wouldn't want the tower to start burning as soon as you downloaded the map at the end of the season. We also thought a lot about where we wanted to put this lighthouse, and if we wanted to put 1 or 2. I decided to stick to the original layout, even though I did momentarily terraform a rock island in a bay to put it on, because leaving it here means that it's exactly between the 2 harbors, and I thought that was pretty cool. And now the fire is in place. The light in the lighthouse is finally there. Now I must admit I never liked this design with a sort of pyramid of flaming netherrack, but this will only be seen from the bottom, so we won't see the netherrack and it should work out fine. Don't forget to pay attention to the height of the lighthouse. At this point I haven't raised it yet, and I think it made a big difference. In the end I really like the shape of the lighthouse. I went in without a preconceived idea, but it turned out really nice. However, the dike that you can see in the foreground was an idea from the team, because the harbor isn't shielded from the waves by a stretch of land. After all, the buildings on the coast have stone walls instead of wood because of wind and water, so we can't leave the port open. Some thought it would be a lot more natural, simply made out of a lot of rocks. I think that would have turned out really great, but it is not at all what I had in mind when I started building it. I really like the fact that it's not at all straight though. I think I would have naturally made something much straighter, but the team convinced me of doing this, and I think it looks much nicer with no clear geometrical shape. Théophile joined me for part of the project because I was overworked from team projects and he had time on his hands. The port is made of a strong stone platform with weakened patchwork wooden docks around it. Now, even though it's well thought through, we want to give the impression of it being built as rickety as possible, with no foresight. Keep in mind that this is a fishing port. It shouldn't be too fancy. Oyendo gave me the idea to leave some sand so that the boats could be pulled onto it. Not every boat has a place to be moored. So maybe the few sturdy docks are reserved for the most respected fishermen. Or something along those lines. Now no, Théophile hasn't changed, but the person helping me has. Mimirara joined me for a few buildings. As time goes by, I find that I become less protective of Let's Timelapse as a personal project, and want to open it more and more to the rest of the team. LanguageCraft is my build team, and I want to share as much as possible with them, and show you our work all together more often than with team timelapses, which take a very long time to make and don't come out very often. So I'll probably always be accompanied in one fashion or another from now on. Maybe only for a few shots like here, or maybe for a whole episode like some others before. We shall see. Having people help me always has a great effect anyway. It's only positive. This crane, for example. I gave Théophile some advice on it, but I would probably have been incapable of doing it, so that this is really his creation. The idea behind it is that it takes crates onto the road on the right, but also on the platform we're working on now, which is part of a warehouse. Mimi and I really bounced ideas off of each other while working on this building. If one of us had an idea, the other would build on it and improve it in a direction the other had not thought of. That's how we added a basement and a mezzanine to the building. That's the point of building it as a team, and I think in the end it always shows. Now we opened up this side of the warehouse, but had to limit ourselves because of wind and water. We added a small overhang because we didn't want to have a lot of different levels on the front and on the side, and a totally flat back to the building. Don't neglect one side of your buildings. So back on my own, I thought that we were missing houses for the fishermen to live in. As small as possible in a way, this fishing port is not very prominent, but it adds to this whole neighborhood, if you will. But you've seen all of this before, which is why it's so fast forwarded. It's funny, Mimirala kept telling me how she couldn't get a hang of my roofs, whether it be the pointy ones or the shallow ones. It's a very personal touch, and that's why if you pay close attention, I am always the one working on roofs when there are several of us. To finish this off, I had a thought about the lighthouse. I want everything to be as realistic as possible, and the narrow part of the tower only had one block in the center for a ladder, but it ends up being under the fire, so you can't really use it. So I decided to add a little balcony for the fun of it with a ladder that runs along the side of the tower. Ah, here we are, zooming over the water towards the town. I love this kind of shot with the camera slowly panning upward above water. And you can see the fort to the right with the church kind of glitching out next to it. Now the port itself is not huge, but it gets the work done. And the lighthouse itself is not half bad. I think it's worthy of the rest of the town. Now this has a very medieval feel, in its representation in Minecraft anyway. That's not necessarily how it was in reality, with everything just a little broken down, bits and pieces added everywhere. The balcony has the same logic. It looks like the builders forgot something and added it in as an afterthought, thinking the looks weren't what mattered the most, they needed something practical. But actually, that kind of imperfection is exactly what makes it look good and gives it an atmosphere. So anyway, to me, port rhymes with fresh produce, which is why there is a small marketplace right here. One might as well come and get their fish right here, where it's brought to land. And right next to that is the big communal warehouse, with a crane that can carry things up, or probably even reach the stone platform. Even the inside of the warehouse is done, because, like LanguageCraft in general, my specialty is to add as much atmosphere as possible. And that's done through details in buildings, small corners that really make a difference. Time to have a look at our map as usual, which is now so big that I can't fit in everything, and things are starting to be cut off on the sides. Now a big thank you to everyone who helped me during the preparation livestream, whether you were building, thinking, or moderating. and especially Théophile and Mimi Lala, who came on to give me a hand. The town is really looking great, and we're getting close to being 3/4 done with it, just one more episode. So I'll see you in a month for the next episode, and expect quite a few cinematics on the channel in the coming months. We're working on a lot of great projects. Thanks for watching, I'll see you soon, bye bye.